Enter, rejoice, and log in. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and log in.
The chalice is a symbol of our UU faith. If you have a chalice or a candle at home, it is time now to light it together. As we say the same words we say each week at our fellowship. We light this flame as a symbol of new life, enlightening our way as a symbol of the warmth in every human heart. May the lighting of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of hope, of peace, of love. May we share that light with all people.
Good morning. I am Marie Luna, your Director of Congregational Life. Thank you for welcoming us into your home today. It is good to be together, even when we have to be physically apart. If you are joining us from another Unitarian Universalist congregation, welcome. If this is your first time visiting the fellowship, I want to extend you a special welcome. I encourage you to reach out to find more about the fellowship and Unitarian Universalism. I will put my email address in the chat box. I hope you reach out. Today's service is being led and supported by Reverend Christina Leone-Tracy, our Senior Minister, Reverend Leah Angiri, our Associate Minister, Brian Merton, our Worship Leader, Eve Rosera, our Religious Education Assistant, Steve Seek, our Music Director, our wonderful musicians and singers, and Adam Robinson, our AV Tech. Thank you to everyone who's made this morning's service possible. This year, we are focusing on growing resilience. We are digging in to what it means to grow ourselves and our community to be sources of life, even when things get tough. Right now, we're in the weeks of our theme, Cultivating Sufficiency. Thank you for joining us as we grow in our awareness that we, each of us, individually and as a community, are enough, just as we are. I am so glad you are here. I invite you to settle into your space wherever you are, setting aside your week in whatever way you are able, so that we can be together fully, even from afar.
May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be one. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be one. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be one.
Now it's time for our Wonder Box. Each week when it's time to open the Wonder Box, we remind everyone that wondering is an important skill for Unitarian Universalists. We have questions and doubts and curiosities and things that we just don't know. But it's okay because wonderings can be gifts rather than burdens. Now, let's wonder together. I wonder what's in there. If you have any guesses, put them in the chat. I won't be able to see them, but other people will. Spoiler alert, it was pizza, but I ate it. It was really good. So, are you wondering? Well, I wonder what's in here. Let's open it up. Let's What's that? It's a picture and a grocery store gift card. That's the coffee maker that I really, 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 really want. It's all shiny. And this is a grocery store gift card. I really need this. But it's so new and fancy. But I have a coffee maker and it makes good coffee. But I really want this one. But I need groceries. I need to have this gift card. This coffee maker costs about $100. This gift card is for $100. I know. I'll use my gift card, and when I buy my groceries, if I have any extra, I will buy some fancy coffee to go in my old coffee maker. So this reminds me of a story about a little girl named Lily who's learning the lessons of wants and needs.
Chapter 1. Want or Need? Hey, Dad, you want me to watch less TV and play outside more? So I really need this new bike, I said. You might want a new bike, Lily, Dad said, but that's not the same as needing one. A need is something we have to have. Dad thought a moment. We all need to exercise. But you can ride your old bike or do other active things. So can I buy a skateboard or roller skates? I asked. Dad smiled. Good try, but today let's only spend money on things we need. What is something you want but don't need? Chapter 2. Buying only what we need. I need a new raincoat, I said. My old one is too small. I like that one. Rainy season is coming soon, Dad said. Let's check it out. Dad looked at the coat and the price tag. This won't keep you very dry, and it costs too much. We'll keep looking. I found another raincoat on sale. Dad let me buy that one. Are the things that cost the most always the best choices? Time for your visit to the dentist, said Dad. We're only spending money on things we need, I said. So we don't have to go. My teeth have already fallen out. Dad laughed. Sorry, Lily, you need to see the dentist anyway. I was good at the dentist, I said. Can we go bowling or play mini golf? Dad shook his head. We have to pay for those, but the park is free. I swung high on the swings. Then I saw the ice cream truck. Dad, I'm hungry. I really need some ice cream. Dad said, special treats are okay sometimes, but a treat is a want, not a need. Let's find a healthy snack at the grocery store on our way home. What is your favorite healthy snack? Chapter 3. Everyone has to make choices. At the store, Dad took out a shopping list. Deciding about wants and needs isn't just for kids. Our whole family has to do it. Want to help? I looked at the list. Mom always says I need to drink my milk and eat my vegetables. So I guess we have to get them. And we need toilet paper. I took another look. Dad, you wrote root beer in big red letters. Does that mean we need it? Dad looked sad. I love root beer, he said, but it's a want, not a need. We'll skip it today. What does your family need besides healthful food and water? Mom works at the hospital. We stopped to pick her up. What are the things that people in the hospital need? Dad asked me. Help from doctors, I said, and medicine. Dad said, right. Think hard, Dad said. What does the hospital have that people don't really need but might want? I couldn't come up with anything. I know, said Mom. The rooms all have TVs. People like to watch them, but people don't need TV to get better. TV makes me feel better, I said, but Dad wants me to ride my old bike instead. What do you need when you feel sick? Chapter 4. When Wants Are Okay. Dad had an idea as we drove home. Sometimes, after people buy all they need, they have money left over. Then they can buy something they want. How about tomorrow we ride our bikes back to the park? We'll buy ice cream. Good idea, Dad, I said, because I know you think ice cream is a want, but my stomach sure thinks it's a need.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom of each of us, every color, every creed and tongue, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, and our heart is in the holy place.
Our first reading this morning is entitled An Adequate Holiday, adapted from Reverend Jake Morrill. You ever read those magazine articles about how to survive the holidays, as if the holidays were some kind of endurance event? To me, that all seems just a little extreme. Then again, it can come from the other side, too. All of the food, decorations, people wanting to force a wildly ugly Christmas sweater on you, and all of the forced merriment. Maybe that's not where you're at either. What if it wasn't only a choice between misery or merry? What about a third option, an adequate holiday season? One that would have you calm and open, taking it in, accepting whatever is. Pique your interest? Here are 3 things that could help. Number 1, notice those behaviors that you tend to do when you're wound up too tight. Could be overeating, could be drinking too much, picking fights with family members. Just choose one behavior you know you've got in you. Don't need to change it. Just try to notice and see what happens. Number 2, say out loud what you want. Nobody can read your mind, right? People aren't magic. So if you've got particular expectations for the holiday season, say them out loud. Say, I'd like to do this. I'd like to go there. Or I really don't want to do this. With what you want on the table, it's easier for everybody to figure out what to do. Number 3, this last one's a doozy. Ready? Treat the holidays as sacred time. Turn your attention toward tradition, toward spiritual practice, toward encountering and welcoming God like you haven't before. Slow it all down like you might be, in some way, attuned to the pace of the eternal. If you need, you can fake it at first. Can I promise these things would bring a wonderful holiday? Well, no. But maybe this year, it could be adequate.
Our second reading this morning is entitled Thanks to Marie Kondo by Reverend Sean Parker Dennison. Now I have the question to ask myself and others as we navigate the changes, both painful and brilliant, both within and without this messy world. It isn't so much about learning the perfect fold or which container to use. We have all been taught that hoarding will help us feel better, that we will not feel so alone. But closets full of clothes only hide the skeletons, and all these things I have gathered around me are not the same as company, are not the same as hope. I have been preparing for the worst, for all the apocalypses I can imagine. I have been saving all of this instead of saving my soul, instead of being here in this moment. I don't think you knew how radical your one small question could be if applied to all things: presidents, protests, and proud boys. Does this spark joy?
I will be the first to admit it. I'm a sucker for those online clickbaity articles. Not the ones that have you answer a quiz to find out which Golden Girl you are. I mean, I don't need a test to tell me that I am Team Dorothy all the way. The ones I feel compelled to click on are the love-hate lists, as in the cool people do this and the squares do that. The most recent one I found, mindlessly scrolling my phone when I should have been sleeping, was on BuzzFeed, titled "The 19 Traits That People Find Unattractive in Others." I made my way through the list, eager to prove that none of these related to me. Littering? Never. Being rude to waitstaff? I'm practically Canadian when I'm a customer. But one trait caught my eye, and I felt my stomach drop. The telepathy tax. That is, holding others accountable for not reading your mind. You're charging them a mental tax of resentment or maybe anger for the crime of them not being able to pull your thoughts from your head directly into theirs. I mean, that is me to a T. I've always been a highly emotional person. I feel like I do a reasonably good job of recognizing those feelings internally, but expressing what I want or need clearly and consistently, incomplete sentences, out loud, you've got to be kidding. I think it comes from a desire to not come across as needy. I want to be seen as an easy breezy, go with the flow type of person. But that portrayal does not match who I truly am inside. There's also probably a touch of toxic masculinity in me that doesn't want to be vulnerable. When someone doesn't read my mind, I get upset. That upset feeling needs to go somewhere, and if I don't let it out, it stays inside and grows. I tell myself, it's not that big a deal. I'll say something next time. But I know I'm only lying to myself, which is safer than risking rejection. It all reminded me of an argument I had recently with a loved one. They made a decision that I found hurtful, and while they could tell I was annoyed, they didn't know the depth of how much it hurt. Because, I didn't say anything. I let it marinate for a while and then decided that it was really unfair to hold it against them unless I opened up fully. So I did. And we had a huge fight. And while it felt really bad in the moment, it really, truly did feel better after we were able to get past the hurt. What's key is that neither of us walked away totally agreeing with the other person, but we had a newfound understanding for each other's needs. I have a better sense of why they made the decision they did, and they understand why my feelings were so hurt. Now, I'm trying to reframe needy as simply a state of having unfulfilled needs, a more non-judgmental way to deal with those feelings. If I can treat it more like being hungry or being sleepy, something that only I can measure, I can take proper ownership of those needs rather than waiting for someone else to.
This year, we are thinking about resilience. We are practicing what it means to grow resilience in ourselves and in our community. And when your staff team and I selected this theme, it was a long time ago. We didn't even have any idea that the pandemic would happen and how apt this theme was going to be for us. But we also had no idea that almost every nonprofit and the local school district, banks would start using this word resilience to try to describe what it is that we are all hoping to find right now. It's being used so much that it's hard to remember what it even means. Resilience is strength, but not a brittle strength. It's a flexible, gentle strength. Resilience is the kind of strength that allows us to change, to adapt, to reconsider what we have or what we are able to do. So far, we have explored resilience through the themes of rootedness and then embrace, and now we're focusing on sufficiency as a way to grow resilience. I want to go back to what Allie shared with us last week, her beautiful message on enough. She shared this reading by Lynn Twist. Twist writes, quote, "By sufficiency, I don't mean a quantity of anything. Sufficiency isn't 2 steps up from poverty or 1 step down from abundance. It isn't a measure of barely enough or more than enough. Sufficiency isn't an amount at all. It is an experience, a context we generate, a declaration, a knowing that there is enough and that we are enough." End quote. Now, those of you who have been around a little while might recall that I shared in a sermon last year that I got a tattoo about a year or so ago. It's an image of the cosmos, planets and clouds and gas and stars, and in the midst of all of that, the word enough. Enough is central to my theology, as is my own connection to space and the stars. If what science tells us is true, and we are all created from the same atoms as the stars in the Big Bang, wow, who am I to say that my body or myself is not enough? I say this phrase, "You are enough," so often in my sermons that I worry it feels a little trite. But several weeks ago, I posted this funny question. It was a meme on Facebook. It asked, "What does your pastor say in sermons?" And none None of you who answered that question named this as my overused phrase. So I guess I don't say it nearly enough. So buckle up, friends. You're going to hear it a lot now. You are enough. So here's the problem, though, with being or having enough. We need a deep sense of awareness of this truth in order to be able to live it. And our interactions with the world are often at odds with our knowledge that we are enough. And so we seek stimulation or comfort or validation or joy from external sources, from entertainment or food or shopping, or as Brian talked about in his reflection, from relationships or expectations. One of the lifelong spiritual practices that is needed to experience sufficiency, to really know it in your heart, is the practice of discerning what we need and what we want. What we need and what we want. And there are many challenges that get in the way of us knowing what it is that we truly need and whether it is different from what we want. One challenge is the world's constant messaging that we don't need anything at all. Another is the real challenge that in our world, some of us have a lot, while others have very little. Some of us, due to life circumstances, challenges, poverty, or oppression, simply don't have what we need. And yet another challenge is the marketing and messaging that convinces us that we need things that we don't actually need. This confuses our wants and our needs and often leads to disappointment. So let's take these challenges one at a time. The first is the world's constant messaging that we don't need anything at all. We're okay on our own. We don't need help. Brian talked about this in his reflection, not wanting to be vulnerable, wanting to come across as easy breezy, no needs at all. But of course we have needs. All the time we have needs. Needs for food and water, warmth, protection from the elements, comfort, purpose, meaning, love, health, connection, and more. Of course we have needs. So this is one challenge, overcoming the idea that we need nothing at all, honoring what we need so that we can be honest with ourselves and with those around us. And sometimes this is just really hard when we have been taught that we shouldn't need anything. It's hard to identify, even for ourselves, what it is that we need. I've been working with on this with my 4-year-old, especially when he has what we like to call big feelings. A gigantic tantrum begins. Eventually, we're able to help him calm down, use words, and identify his feelings. But the next step is the hardest. Okay, you're mad. I hear that you're mad. What do you need that might help right now? Learning to turn inward and figure out what might help is a skill that we are rarely taught, especially for those of us who were socialized as boys or men. As Brian mentions, this skill is even less likely because toxic masculinity in our world lies and says that men have no needs. What do you need? Often the answer is simple. Food. Hangry, hungry, angry is a real thing, right? I know I get it. Or maybe we just need a nap. Or to be left alone for a few minutes. Or maybe we need a hug. Or an apology. Or something else, depending on whatever is going on. Underneath our feelings, there's always a need sitting there, hoping and waiting to be met. So that's our first challenge, acknowledging and learning how to identify our needs in the face of our culture telling us we don't need anything. The next challenge that we face when it comes to cultivating sufficiency and knowing what we need is that even if we are able to name it, we might not be able to get it. In my 4-year-old son's case, he might really need us to fix something that is unable to be repaired. Or he might just need to be an only child. And unfortunately, that ship has sailed. But in other people's cases, sometimes the needs are deeper and the circumstances of life make meeting those needs not just really hard, but sometimes impossible. It is a heartbreaking truth that our world is unfair. It's unfair. It is set up so that even though there is more than enough to go around, some people have way more than enough, while others cannot meet basic needs. When meeting our needs is such a challenge, it's common to start to ignore them altogether. Why dwell there if nothing can be done about it? And sometimes smaller or more fanciful wants get substituted in the place of needs. Heck, if I can't pay my mortgage and everything is falling apart, maybe I'll just go get my nails done. And that will at least make me feel better for a little while. I have no judgment for someone who is trying to find joy in whatever way is possible, especially when our society has failed in supporting basic needs. This challenge, this is a tricky one. There are no simple strategies to getting needs met when our society's systems have failed. And yet, there are those of us with more stable lives who have enough or more than enough, and we have a responsibility to continue working for a more just, fair disbursement of resources in our society. Our Essentials team here at the Fellowship provides food for those people who are in our local shelters and supports Habitat for Humanity. Our Justice Action Ministries work with Esther and with other organizing groups in our community to advocate for fair housing laws, better access to transportation, and other local justice issues. If you want to find out how to connect with these efforts, send me a chat in the chat box or an email. Finally, our third challenge, among so many others I know, to knowing our wants and needs is marketing and consumerism. Year-round, of course, this is a challenge, but we are about to be inundated with messages about how to provide a meaningful holiday season through all the things that you can purchase. Now, I have to admit that I am struggling with this one right now, especially thanks to the pandemic and how hard everything feels right now, I have recently succumbed to the idea that certain purchases will make me feel better. There's even a term for this. People call it retail therapy, how buying things will bring comfort and joy, even momentarily. Now, I will not make anyone feel bad for loving a pumpkin spice latte or wanting a beautiful Christmas tree. You do whatever you need to do right now, friends. I will not yuck your yum. That's what we call it at our house. Don't yuck my yum. For me, I have become kind of embarrassingly obsessed with scents, smells. I've been buying seasonally scented hand soaps and dish detergent and bathroom sprays for the last several months. Summer, fall, and now I just bought some for winter. And let me tell you, I love it. I love it. It's ridiculous. But while washing my dishes is an unavoidable chore, it feels slightly less burdensome to do it with a delicious clove-scented soap in the cool of autumn. I get this little rush of joy from buying these soaps. And I still enjoy them after the rush is gone, but did they make my pandemic daily life any easier? Is anything actually different? No. This is the realization that we need to be honest about when it comes to marketing. It's fine. It's fine to find joy in simple, fun, even silly things. But it's not going to be a lasting, true joy. It won't fix our need for connection, our sadness at the state of the world, or our boredom, worry, or fear. Being clear about what these purchases will and will not provide is key to understanding our needs and our wants. What I need is to see my extended family. What I need is to hold my new baby nephew, to look forward to a trip with my kids. And none of that is possible right now. Do I want lovely soap? Yes. Do I like it? Yes. Do I need it? Absolutely not. Will it make me happy? For a moment, but not truly. Which brings me to our reading that we heard earlier by the Reverend Sean Parker Dennison, entitled In Praise of Marie Kondo. He writes, quote, I don't think you knew how radical your one small question could be if applied to all things, presidents, protests, and proud boys. Does this spark joy? Now, if you're unfamiliar with Marie Kondo, she is the author of the book and star of a TV show featuring her strategies for organizing your home. She is a young, petite Japanese woman, and her method is to organize by item. All your clothes at once, all your books at once, rather than by room. She encourages people to keep only what sparks joy and then to discard the rest. Kondo became a pop culture flashpoint a couple years ago for a while, some people adoring her, others loving to hate her. Some folks insisted that she had unrealistic standards for what we should keep or give away. Personally, I love her. Like the reading, I found her question radical. Does this spark joy? It's a question that, like knowing our needs, has been ignored in our culture for so long that we rarely are able to even access the answer. Despite the memes that were floating around social media asserting that despite the memes that floated around social media, Kondo never assigned a certain limit to how many of a certain item you should have. She never said you could only keep 20 books or only 15 outfits. That's not true. She says if it truly sparks joy, or if you really need it, then keep it. If your 500 books, each and every one of them, truly sparks joy, keep them. But if you're keeping it around for some other reason, then don't. She is inspired by Shinto religion, the idea that all things, even inanimate objects, have a spirit. And so she spends some time in each home greeting the spirit of the home and of the objects inside. For her, keeping what we love and not keeping what we don't is about respecting the spirit of our belongings. What a different concept than Western consumerism. Like Dennison says in the reading, quote, "We have all been taught that hoarding will help us feel better, that we will not feel so alone, but closets full of clothes only hide the skeletons, and all these things that I have gathered around me are not the same as company, not the same as hope." He continues, "I've been preparing for the worst, for all the apocalypses I can imagine. I've been saving all of this instead of saving my soul, instead of being here in this moment." This is the spiritual challenge of sufficiency, of knowing what it is that we need, what brings us joy, discerning that being able to name it and claim it, fighting for the access of all people to have those things that they need, and avoiding what promises to bring joy, but in the end only clutters and disappoints. And this, like the challenge of enough, is what Reverend Jake Morrill encouraged in the other reading that we heard earlier, quote, "What if it wasn't only a choice between misery and merry? What about a third option?" he asks. "An adequate holiday season, one that would have you calm and open, taking it in, whatever it is." In other words, as we look toward Thanksgiving this coming week and the winter holidays following soon after, especially this year, as everything is so very different, what if we strived for enough, allowing our experience to be whatever it is, connecting with those we love online or by phone, celebrating all the ways that we have made it through this year, allowing ourselves a chance to do things differently. I'm not saying it will be easy, but it is what it is. We can't make this reality change, try as we might. So we can instead find sufficiency. As Lynn Twist said, quote, "An experience, a context we generate, a declaration, a knowing that there is enough and that we are enough." As we head into Thanksgiving, it need not be miserable or magical. It could just be enough. May that be so, and amen.
Tis our gift to be simple, tis our gift to be free, tis our gift to come down where we ought to be, and when we find ourselves in the place just right, will we
Sharing our individual joys and concerns helps us uncover and cultivate new pathways forward. This becomes a collective process when we risk being open about our journey with one another. If you so choose, now is the time to type into the chat box any personal news you might wish us all to know. This gives us the gift of being able to celebrate, mourn, witness, and travel along with you. If you would like a one-on-one connection, I hope you will be in touch with me, and I can make sure that someone from the ministry team or the care team is available to spend some time with you. Anyone is also welcome to submit joys and concerns via our website or by emailing me or any member of our staff. We will include this news in our weekly email. Let us breathe into this shared silence, taking in and breathing out the hope and prayer and great spiritual truth that we have enough and that we are enough. May it always be so.
And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer.
Each week, we take time for generosity, remembering that the acts of giving and receiving are spiritual practices. As always, if you are in need of financial or emotional support, please reach out to any of our ministers, Reverend Christina, Reverend Leah, or Allie, so they can offer help, including modest financial support through the minister's discretionary fund. For those of you who are feeling relatively more financially secure, we want to thank you for continuing to give and ask you to keep doing so. There are several ways you can give to the fellowship and many reasons to do so. Here are just a few.
Hello, I am Marty Wheeler.
And I'm Doug Wheeler.
And here are two of the many reasons why we have been and continue to be a part of the fellowship.
It is both a good theological fit for my belief structure, and it is a community of good people that I enjoy being part of. Over the years, the fellowship, through both giving and receiving, has nurtured myself and my family in many ways.
The fellowship gives me hope for our future. While we may not always get it right, we do continue to learn and grow, showing people can work together to support one another and to help make our world better.
As we come to the end of our service, we will extinguish our chalice flame, even as we still hold its light in our hearts. As we extinguish this flame, let us go our ways with hope in our hearts, with our spirits renewed, and with a deeper understanding of life's mystery. Let us carry the light of compassion and commitment to build a better world. After our closing words, we will be having small breakout groups, just like usual, for 15 minutes of connection and conversation. In a moment, we will hear a short postlude song. If you don't want to participate in the small group conversations, then please use that postlude time to log off and leave this Zoom meeting. But if you choose to stay, I encourage you to learn each other's names and to pay attention to the timer in the corner of your screen so that everyone gets a chance to share. If you would like, maybe it would be nice to each share how you plan to have an adequate holiday season this year, or what truly sparks joy for you. And with that, go in resilience, growing in strength. Go in sufficiency, remembering that you are enough. Go in peace, knowing that we embrace each other, even now, from a distance.